Welcome to the Five Towns Jewish Times podcast, bringing you the latest stories, insights, and conversations that matter most to you and your community. Here is your host, Larry Gordon.
Hi, everyone. This is Larry Gordon coming to you from the newsroom of the Five Towns Jewish Times. Uh, a day before Thanksgiving here in the United States. Our our first guest today is old friend. I'm the old part and she's the friend part, pretty much. So our guest is our old friend Jamie Geller, who is well known internationally, and she serves as the chief of what? The
Chief Communications Officer and Global Spokesperson.
chief communications officer and global spokesman for Aish,
Yeah,
Aish.com, as
yeah,
it's known as, right?
yeah.
And Jamie came to my attention this week because of an article that was printed in the Jerusalem Post, um, which is a commentary pretty much on the aftermath of the war in Gaza, which here in the United States, President Trump likes to say that there's peace in the Middle East. But I don't know, as you live in Israel, I believe, right? You live in Israel, you live in Beit Shemesh.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't know if the person on the street in Israel is saying that there's peace in the Middle East exactly yet. But there's one point of contention. The main point of contention in the verbiage that's being used to describe the aftermath of what took place for the last 2 years between Israel and Hamas in Gaza is the way it's being articulated, and using terms, as you pointed out in your article, that are more connected to and related to the history of the Jewish people. Could
Yes.
you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I started to write about this subject. We know the terms of genocide and Holocaust have been thrown around, and we just saw Mamdani in the Oval Office just like slip in the fact that, there's a genocide happening when Israel has violated international law in the middle of talking about housing prices in New York. And like a wolf in sheep's clothing, just like, slips that in, smiles to the cameras and keeps going. So it's kind of become the accepted narrative. And basically post this brokered peace or ceasefire deal, as we all call it, there's a disturbing trend that emerged on social media where social media influencers from Gaza taking selfies of themselves with an overlay shareable sticker that says, "I'm a survivor of the Gaza Holocaust." And
Hmm.
of course, we know all too well the term Nazis has been thrown around, the term Holocaust has been thrown around, and genocide over not just through this conflict, but over the years since the Holocaust and since World War II. But this was just like words matter. And it's, we know how things can catch like wildfire on social media. This was this shareable sticker that everyone could put their smiling face on. And I just felt like something had to be said, and it had to be said in no uncertain terms and really break down the power of words and why this is not a genocide, why this is not a Holocaust, but not just stop there. I really wanted to talk about a path forward. What do we do with the word survivor if words matter? And what can we learn from survivors of the Holocaust if we're even going to evoke their memories in vain like this? So that's what the
Well,
article was about.
that meeting that President Trump had with the mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani last week in the
Yeah.
White House is really a point of contention and debate here, with especially for the part where he just very nonchalantly talked about the not only that Israel's committing genocide or committed genocide in Gaza, but that also said the U.S. is funding it,
Yes. Right.
and Trump just let it go.
Yeah.
People are saying that it was that he dropped the ball in a way. Trump, he didn't respond properly, and the other side says that it was a brilliant way of handling what they everyone expected to be some kind of hostile meeting. Now,
Right.
it's no one knows what's in store for New York yet, but he's a very
Yeah.
unusual type of Muslim.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things on his agenda is to legalize prostitution in New York. So I don't think that falls under Sharia law
Yeah.
is something that Muslims are particularly known for. He wants to legalize other forms of what are questionable lifestyles that he wants to
Yes.
make legal, which really doesn't fit into the typical Islamic type of personality or
Yes.
a mayor or a king or whatever. Um, but yeah, what kind of reaction did you get to the article? Because you can't control what people say and do.
Yeah. So the article, it's been in my role as Aish as the Chief Communications Officer and Global Spokesperson, I probably write an op-ed at least once every 2 weeks and sometimes even once a week. So on a regular basis, I'm basically scanning, obviously, the headlines, living life as people are, and reacting to the things that we say through an honest, authentic lens of Jewish wisdom. And this article somehow struck a chord. I got the incredible response for it. I think it like because I spoke from a more heartfelt way as opposed to like a more of a what's called intellectual, factual base. Of course, I have all the facts to back it up and the statistics in the article, why this is not a genocide, what the Holocaust was versus what a war is. But I also spoke a little bit from the heart, and I spoke with a solution-based, like I said, narrative. I added to it, what does it mean to be a survivor? What is the responsibility that survivors carry and hold? And what can we learn from survivors? So the article got a lot of response, and it means a lot. We didn't mention in the beginning, we're old friends because my career was started at the Five Towns
Right.
Times
That's right. That's
21
right.
years ago.
How
So
long are you in Israel now? About 20 years?
13 years in Israel, and it
Oh,
was
that's
about
it.
20
Time
years ago
flies.
that you launched my career. And I started writing weekly with you.
Right.
And you and
Right.
Esther gave me the courage and the strength and support. And he said, yeah, you've got something here. And that's where my weekly column and writing began. So it means a lot
Okay.
that you
That's
reached
great.
out about this article.
That's great. That's absolutely great. But I wanted to, this is it's like it's not illegal for people to use to steal other terms from people. You know, we have a situation here where if you saw the New York Post, I guess you didn't see the New York Post today, but if you see the headlines, one of the first things they want Mamdani to do is to vote in a race for the New York City Council and a race for himself as mayor. So we don't know what he's going to turn out to be yet.
Right.
I think he's more. My estimation is that he's more of a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I
I
don't know.
just called him that today, this morning, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And you know that I know his mother. When I was a producer at HBO, she was the director of a film called Hysterical Blindness, featuring Uma Thurman and Juliette Lewis. And I actually was on set with her and interviewed her on camera for HBO. So,
Have you been in touch with her?
not since then. That was like 25 years ago. But I was like, wait, I know her. So it's very interesting, but very much a wolf in sheep's clothing. I completely concur with that assessment.
Well, it's a first time experience for New York City,
Yeah.
which is the five boroughs. We don't know how it's going to trickle down in terms of
Right.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I just heard Governor Kathy Hochul, say this morning that about the turkey distribution that she was doing yesterday, about that she was, raised as a good Catholic young lady, and she was doing the right thing. And if you think Islam, or at least the hardcore Islam that Mamdani purports to represent, has difficulty with Jews, I'm sure if you get him started on Catholics,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that much kinder, so to
Right.
speak. So
She
we don't know
endorsed him, but
exactly.
he refused to endorse her. So if that's any
Well,
sign.
I'm sure that there's a thought process behind that,
Yeah.
but we have to see where that's going to go. Did you had any kind of reaction from media uh, that wanted to interview you about your wanting to claim ownership of certain terms
Right.
like Holocaust and survivor
Right.
and,
So
and genocide?
first of
Do we
all,
own those? Do we own those?
we
Do we own
do.
those terms? You think?
I would say genocide, survivor, those are not terms we own. But I do think that using the word Holocaust, and of course,
Hmm.
no, it's not illegal. No, I'm not going to sue anybody for using that term. But I think it does a disservice to what is probably the greatest example of resilience in like the history of humanity by throwing around the word Holocaust. I think it's irresponsible. And I think it's um, unfair. And it's not just like historical revisionism, but I think it just actually robs the next generation of learning what it means to be a survivor. And again, I'm not claiming to own the term survivor or genocide, but I do think Holocaust is a unique evil that was perpetrated against the Jewish community, and I do think that it is thrown around way too willy-nilly. Also, even the term Nazi. I mean, we know that that's like such a popular term that everyone likes to throw around the second they don't like anyone. So I feel like, we need to be careful. We need to understand how powerful words are and how much we can misuse them or how much we could learn from them when used in the proper context. So this was really my desire, if you will, to just talk about the responsibility we have to use words in the proper context.
But that's something that everyone has to participate in if they're so inclined on a volunteer basis. Not the type of thing that anybody can manage or legislate, or
Mm.
you can't pass certain terms. I guess sometimes in Germany there's certain terms that are outlawed, or even in England where they don't have a First Amendment like we have here in the United States.
Right.
But here you could say whatever you wish. When President Trump says that there's now peace in the Middle East, how do you feel about that? Is that an accurate statement?
Well, even within the borders of the state of Israel, there are still soldiers dying every day and terror rings being broken up, realized, and thwarted, terror attacks thwarted before they start. And that's happening in Yehuda and Shomron, Judea and Samaria. So while things are a little bit more quiet on the southern border right now with Gaza, we know things are heating up in the north. I mean, we're at a state of preparedness and readiness. They just prepared the army for anything to happen at any time in the north, as well as the citizens. So I don't think that we can be so bold to say that we have achieved peace in the Middle East and the first peace in thousands of years that we've all dreamed for. There's a ceasefire now, and we're waiting to see what develops there, while everything else is still sort of hot and heating up and continuing to heat up.
Well, you read the media. I'm sure you're aware that President Trump refers several times a day to the fact that he achieved peace in the Middle East.
Well,
And
first of
then,
all, marketing and branding, and that is so, so critical. And especially when he just missed out on the Nobel Peace Prize and is definitely advocating for himself for the coming year. If you say something, and that's the point of this article, if you say it loud enough and strong enough and repeat it enough times, it becomes truth. So that's his attempt
yeah,
at marketing and branding. And he's good at it. He's excellent at it. We could
that
learn
was
a
the
thing
whole
or two.
idea. That was the whole idea behind, the Nazis in World War II and the big lie.
Yeah.
Joseph Goebbels said if you repeat it enough times, it becomes a reality.
Yes.
And the American people in general are very, very impressionable and
Of course.
easy to adopt a term, in terms of uh, talking about genocide,
Yeah.
especially to talk about I don't know where I saw it, but about the ratio of civilians versus
Yes. I
military
wrote I
people.
wrote it I wrote about it in the article actually, so maybe you're
Ah,
referring to there. Although
that's 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 where I saw it.
it referenced obviously in many places. So the civilian to combat ratio in the Gaza war was essentially 1-to-1, and that's even by
Right.
independent investigations. Now that is unheard of in World War II. Excuse me, in World War II, the ratio was 3-to-1, in Iraq, 3-to-1. And American estimates for modern urban warfare, the US Army says it should be 9-to-1. So this is unbelievable. Now, I don't want to say any loss of life is tragic and horrible, but we need to understand how the most moral army in the world operated. And we know that with leaflets, with escape routes, with humanitarian aids, with safe zones. When we talk about the Holocaust, it was from the ghettos to the concentration camps to the gas chambers. No
Right.
humanitarian quarters, no safe
Mhm.
zones, no humanitarian aid, no way out. That's the difference between a Holocaust and a war. War is terrible. The loss of life is terrible. When we actually take a look at independent estimates saying and corroborating the 1-to-1 ratio, we are doing better than any war in the history of the world, and even what the U.S. Army considers acceptable for urban warfare, which is a 9-to-1.
Yeah, but it's very hard to get people to believe that because the deck is stacked against Israel and the Jews
Yeah.
to begin with, and this has been a sustained campaign for 2 years to marginalize and criticize Israel and everything the
It's
Israel
not
military
just
does.
2 years. It has been funded and
Yeah,
strategized, the PR war and the war of information, before they even had the tools or knew that the tools existed, like digital media and social media, to help them in this war of words. And unfortunately, Israel is so much fighting for its physical survival that it doesn't have the resources and or the luxury of paying the attention that is needed to the war of words and to the PR war. So it's very challenging. Look, I want to tell you the number one comment that I got about this article is I'm preaching to the choir, and can we get a mainstream news outlet to interview me or to publish it? Because I am thrilled to be on the Five Towns Jewish Times, and I'm so happy it was on JPost. But I'm preaching to the choir, and the people that need to hear it
Right.
are not hearing it, and that's been always our
Right.
challenge.
Right. So is the Post letting you let it out?
I
If you have,
did ask, and we're waiting to hear
yeah,
back if we could do a reprint with permission for
yeah.
you and for
Uh-huh.
whoever else.
All
We should
right.
be
Okay.
sending.
Whoever, I'm sure you got a number of requests because it's a message that needs to be reiterated. I think to make an impression because
Yeah,
we have the numbers. The numbers are really stacked very significantly against the Jewish people.
yeah.
Maybe 15 million Jews in the world. Maybe 15
Point
million. We
point
don't
two
know.
percent of the population.
Okay.
Yet
And if
somehow
it,
we've managed to win 20% of the Nobel Peace Prize and really made an impact in many industries.
Yeah, and people like Zoran Mamdani, is not doesn't like that. He's not a fan of it.
Yeah,
He's about to have some kind of education in New York, where, as you know, as our audience knows, that has the greatest Jewish population in New York City outside of the state of Israel.
correct.
About I think 2.1, 2.2 Jewish people living in
Yes.
the not necessarily in the five boroughs, but in New York State.
Yes. And we know that
So.
what happens in the five boroughs trickles out. It very much affects. So it definitely should be looked at as one larger New York community.
Well, we'll see what happens. What he's actually going to be able to legislate. One of the problems is that he's dealing also with a very liberal, leftist-leaning city council. Number one, and
Yeah.
also the New York State Assembly and the state Senate is also
Mhm,
very, very liberal.
mhm.
So he may want to. I think, I was thinking this morning that this is him being mayor of New York City. This is the beginning of what his long-term plan or
Oh,
dream
his
is.
aspirations. Oh, he's going straight. His goals are straight to the Oval Office, and he has the
Right.
backing financially to support that. He's like, I'm here for a minute just now for this first press conference, and I'll be back in that chair. He was thinking that.
Listen, for all you know, I mean, he might run. He might run against Kathy Hochul next year. That's
Mhm.
why he didn't endorse her. It's entirely
Interesting.
possible. Or they're
Interesting.
going to put up someone that's even more to the left,
Yeah.
leftist Democrats to run against her.
Yeah.
I don't know how people vote him. I don't know what people that I think 20% of the Jews in New York City voted for Mamdani.
That
So I,
is
I don't
the most
know.
incredible statistic.
I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who these people are, but
Mhm,
you talked about 0.2% of the population. Then I mentioned about a large 2 million Jews in New York.
mhm.
But it comes back to the old question of, what is a Jew? You know, and you could be Jewish by birth, but how is your thinking? How does
Right,
your
of
thinking work?
course.
What's your philosophy? What's your political
Sure.
positions?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of, Trump is a very popular president and probably the best president that Israel ever had
Mhm.
in the White House. But still, a lot of Jews oppose Trump. Why? Because people oppose Trump. They don't know why they're
Right,
opposing him.
right,
They just
right,
oppose him
right.
because it's the thing to do. It's the thing to do is to oppose him if you can. So before we conclude, give me a couple of little bit of tidbits of what else is going on in Aish. What's
Okay,
going on?
so
It's like the largest cure organization.
unbelievable. We've celebrated over 50 years as not just a global Jewish educational organization, but really a movement. And one of the most exciting things I'm excited for this year, there's a few things, but one is Aish Studios. I come from
Hmm.
HBO and CNN and this like
Right.
whole
Hmm.
production background. So when I first came to Aish 5 years ago, I said to the CEO, Rabbi Berg, how there's like NBC studios at Rockefeller Plaza? We should have Aish Studios at Western Wall Plaza. So we just
Okay.
had a lead gift from the beautiful, amazing Tratt family, Jonathan and Evie Tratt, and we're opening up Aish Studios now. It's the beginning of a multi-studio complex right there across from the Western Wall to be broadcasting Jewish wisdom to the world from the center of the universe. So that's the most exciting thing, I would say. One of them.
We also need a Jewish version of Fox News or CNN also.
Yeah. Yes. I mean,
Because the Jewish news the news that's pro-Israel
yeah.
or casts a positive light about Israel is
Mm,
smothered
Yeah.
in the media. It does
Yeah.
not get out there. I don't
Yeah.
know why it's like that. I maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I actually slept to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Sirius XM
Well,
people. I think it was still
great.
two companies, Sirius and XM.
Okay.
I thought there's so many channels. Why
Yeah.
shouldn't there be something of some really real Jewish content? And
Correct.
I met with one of the producers, one of the executives, and he said to me, but he pretty much told me that why should we get involved in an additional Jewish channel? The Jews, are in control most of the media in the country.
Yeah, right. Well, we
So
control it. Is that right?
that's
Isn't that
right.
so interesting?
I don't know
If we
I don't
ever
know if you use
wanted
the word
to,
control.
if we
I
ever,
mean,
I'm
I
saying,
don't know.
if we ever want to kick back against that stereotype and hit
No,
back, this would
yeah.
really explain the fact that we're losing this information war. If we really controlled the media like that anti-Semitic trope, it would be a different situation. So,
Well, one of the potent little crises coming up for the Jewish community in the next few months is that Barry Weiss has taken over as president of
she's
CBS
amazing.
News.
Yes.
And
Yes.
everything I've read about her, they can't stop saying that she's pro-Israel. She's
Yeah.
pro-Israel. Barry Weiss is pro-Israel,
Yeah.
and she's cleaning house. And she's probably not going to have a pro-Israel station. I don't think she's going to compete with Aish Studios. I think you could do much better than her. But
Amen. Oh my gosh, from your mouth to God's ears, Larry. I'll take it.
she's gonna be criticized for her pro-Israel stance, and
Yeah.
the news won't necessarily reflect a exclusively pro-Israel stance, but it
Right.
will at least deliver even-handed news that the
Yes.
viewer or the consumer can make up their own mind about themselves
Of
without
course.
being proselytized
Right.
and have their psyche and their intelligence badgered in order to think a certain way.
Wouldn't
Anyway,
that be a
I'm very
novel
glad
idea? Unbiased journalism. It's like back in the day when we
that
started.
back to the old Walter Cronkite. I remember Walter Cronkite in 1963
Yeah.
when John Kennedy died, and they still criticize him today when they write about him. When he announced that John F. Kennedy has died, he shed a tear, and
Yeah.
that was critical of him. They were critical
That
of him
yes.
because he wasn't being a journalist that delivers the news, without getting personally involved. That was the extent of his
Yeah.
bias, or his prejudice.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Unbelievable.
anyway, it's very good to hear what you had to say. And we're going to put
Yeah.
this up online this afternoon or this evening.
Great.
And
Great.
it's very nice to connect with you once again. Keep up
Always.
the good work at Aish,
Thank
and
you.
we'll be in
Thank
touch,
you.
God willing.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
very,
Amit.
thanks very
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. Jamie
Thank
Geller from Jerusalem. Have a good day. Be well.
thank you.